Hello.
Hi, can you all hear me by any chance? Maybe?
I can.
Perfect. I love it. I see some thumbs up. Great. Alrighty. Well, I have to start out with this. George is not going to be here tonight. He is working the floor. It is live music night. It is Thursday at Atwater, so George is not going to be here. You're stuck with me for the next hour or so. But if you have anything for George, I will pass it on. Amanda is also here. So if you have any questions for her, don't be shy. And I will apologize in advance. There might be some background noise. I am somewhat I'm not at home at the moment, so there might be a little noise in the background, but it should be minimal. So apologize for that. I'm gonna give it just another minute or two for people to come on in. Maybe the next 2 minutes, and we'll start at 6:35. So we can just kind of chit chat for the time being, or if you've got
We have
any.
background noise too if you hear the cardinal.
No worries, Fall. No worries.
I'll try to stay muted.
Oh, it's all right. Let me get my stuff situated here. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe this will load. All right, I'm assuming you guys can see that. Great. Okay.
We got it.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. All right, I'm just gonna give it just a second. We got all right. It's 6:35. People are if people are coming, they're here. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this shipment. It's a little different. We've got obviously the Cab Franc from 22, which is, I believe, the first red we've released from 2022. We've got the Pet-Nat, which I know for some of you is definitely a new wine. I hope that went well for you, and we'll talk about all of that for any future Pet-Nats we send out. And of course, we have the first wine of 2023, the Dry Rose of Cabernet Franc and Blaufränkisch. So we're going to start off with the Pet-Nat. So we've got some fun varieties in this. So this year we had a lot of wine in 2023. Most of it was fruit we hadn't worked with before. So this year we made a lot of wine. We made about 9,500 cases, which for Atwater is a lot of wine. And that was on purpose. We have had so much response from the club that we need to make way more wine than we normally do. However, some of you may know, some of you may not know that in May, there was a pretty serious freeze event. And it hit pretty hard across the Finger Lakes. Atwater was very lucky. They did we didn't get damaged too much. We probably saw maybe 10% damage overall, maybe a little more than that across the board. We did have a Riesling block that got absolutely decimated, unfortunately. So long story short is we had to kind of go out of bounds a little bit and get some fruit from some other growers that we haven't worked with before and we'll probably continue to work with in the future. So long story short is this is where the Aromella comes in. If some of you here drink the Pet-Nats often, you'll know that we almost always make a Riesling Pet-Nat. However, we just did not have enough Riesling on the farm to really commit to making a Pet-Nat. And now that I've taken over in the cellar, I don't want to make 50 cases of Pet-Nat. I want to make, in this in this case, it was 400 cases of Pet-Nat across this Pet-Nat, and then we have another Pet-Nat coming out not this Saturday, but this following Saturday, the 23rd, we'll be releasing our Rosé Pet-Nat. So I wanted more, so that meant I had to go a little above and beyond, a little out of comfort zone with some of the varieties. So Aromella came up. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Scout Vineyards, but I know Dan Budman, one of the winemaker, one of the owners there, and he reached out to us and said, "Hey, Aromella, if you guys want to, I have too much. If you want to, take some from me, that would be great." And I said, "Awesome, we'll put that towards Pet-Nat." So Aromella is a new variety. It's a hybrid variety. It's from Cornell. It's straight out of Geneva. And it's a cross between Traminette and Ravat, and Ravat is Vignoles. And so, and Traminette, for those of you who are not familiar with your hybrids, Traminette is a cross between Gewürztraminer and another variety that was just like a numbered kind of miscellaneous variety. It was never available to the public. So that's, keep that in mind, because later on, that's kind of where the Gewürztraminer comes in. And it was originally, like many hybrids coming out of Geneva, it was originally developed to be hardy and very cold friendly. But it's a really fun variety. It's basically Gewürztraminer kind of toned down. So you get a lot, you don't really get the kind of aroma, that rosy, poopery, whatever you want to call it. You really just get the tropical notes of that you usually get in Gewürztraminer. So like peach and pineapple and citrus. So that's kind of where that came in. So we had it. And the story of this Pet-Nat is many hybrids have a lot of acid. They're really tough to make dry wines out of. And I was really worried as I was kind of tasting the tank that there was way too much acid. I knew what the grapes came in at, and the acid was really high, and I was worried, like, oh boy, this is going to be tough for most people to drink. The acid was just going to be too high. The sugar was going to be too low because it was a Pet-Nat. So that's where the Gewürztraminer comes in. And before I start talking about Gewürztraminer, for those of you who are not familiar with Pet-Nat, I know that this is possibly a new wine for some of you. A Pet-Nat is basically slang for pétillant naturel, which is a French term for naturally sparkling wines. So what happens is, in our case, I see a chat, hold on. Great, Scott, thank you. So Pet-Nats, when your wine is it's naturally sparkling because you bottle your wine before it's finished fermenting. So in our case, it was about half a Brix, which is the sugar measurement for, which is the measurement for how much sugar is in a wine, based off of gravity. So it's bottled right before it finishes fermentation. Most fermentations will go to probably -0.5, -1 Brix. So it's kind of right at the end. And then because CO2 is a byproduct of fermentation, you get your carbonation. So it's a very tricky process. And over the, George was doing it a lot. And then I came over, and even when I was assistant, I was very much, the Pet-Nats were basically my pet project. No pun intended. And so it's a complicated wine to make. So I was worried for the Aromella that it just had way too much acid. We can go look. I wonder if the acid. So the acid is only 7.5, and we'll get to that in a minute. Why that's so low? That's a pretty normal number. But when the Aromella came in, it was probably 12 grams of acid, which is really, really, really high. So that's where the Gewürztraminer came in. I'll go back to the Gewürztraminer. So we had some skin fermented Gewürztraminer fermenting away in bins whilst the Aromella was fermenting. So they came in, I think the Aromella, the Gewürztraminer came in, let's check with a date on that harvest date. So it came in 4 days later. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Gewürztraminer came in 4 days after the Aromella. And so it was all to skin ferment this year. And I thought to myself, well, the Gewürztraminer acid is really low and the Aromella is really high. And technically, Gewürztraminer's Aromella is like grandparent. And so there's a story to that, and they're kind of related, and that might be fun. So Sam, my assistant, and I kind of did some just trials, very basic trials. And we came to the conclusion that 15% skin fermented Gewürztraminer was going to be a good addition to the Aromella and bring down the acid. What I didn't really realize at the time was that due to the fact that the Gewürztraminer was on the skins and fermenting on the skins, there was a lot of yeast and a lot of bacteria in that fermentation. And so by adding the Gewürztraminer to the Aromella, the wine actually went through malolactic fermentation, which was a blessing in disguise. I had kind of thought in the back of my mind that might happen, but I wasn't banking on it. I wasn't assuming that was going to happen. Lo and behold, it did happen. And so that's why our acid went from probably 10 grams per liter, to 7.5. So this is a really interesting wine. It's Aromella, it's Gewürztraminer that was skin fermented. It's also, if you haven't noticed, if you're drinking it, it's only it's a little over 9% alcohol. So it's really easy to drink, which is what these hybrids are really, good for, is kind of picking them early, lower alcohol wine, which is the point of what I'm trying to take the Pet-Nats towards going forward. So it's 9.3% alcohol. It's fun. It's a little funky, but not in a weird way. The malolactic adds this kind of milky, almost sour beer aspect to it. So that I hope you guys enjoy it, and please say in the chat or when I'm at the end of this little segment, please feel free to speak if you liked it or not. And so it's a fun wine. And I think going forward, this will be one of our house Pet-Nats. It might not be the same ratio, but we're going to get Aromella next year. We'll probably do the Gewürztraminer edition again. It depends on vintage. No, the Finger Lakes is very, spontaneous, or not spontaneous, but it varies greatly depending on year to year. So yeah, that's kind of the Pet-Nat. Lower alcohol. If you look at the harvest bricks, the Aromella is only 16.5% bricks, which is super, super low. It tends to ripen early. I see a chat. Perfect, Scott. I love it. And one more thing, I'm really not used to talking to people about Pet-Nats because Pet-Nats to me are very commonplace. I drink them all the time. I do apologize. We did send this out. This is the first time we sent out a Pet-Nat, and we did not necessarily express to people that you need to chill this down. So going forward, I do apologize if many of you did not chill this down. You would have quickly found out that it blew up. It will not blow up if it's cold. I have worked very hard making sure that our Pet-Nats are approachable and not a hassle. Many Pet-Nats you get from other producers, some of them will blow up due to carbonation. I've really focused in the past couple of years making sure that we have the right amount of carbonation. And so yes, just a warning. We sent out a secondary email, but if you did not see that secondary email, please chill this down before you drink it. I would say at least an hour or two in the fridge, but it should not blow up. Just a warning. So let's see. The Hubbards are asking what this will pair with. So this is a very tropical wine, but it's weird in a way. It's kind of like a sour beer. It has this kind of lactic. I not milky is the wrong word, but I guess milky is the word. It is lactic. So it's very easy to drink. I wouldn't pair this necessarily with like you could have this with a meal, but this is I love this wine because you can have this, especially between two people. And if you have three people, then it's really easy. You can have this wine before dinner and you probably won't even notice that you've had it. It's so, 9.3% alcohol is really not that. It's obviously it's alcohol, but there are beers that are 9.3% alcohol. So if you look at it like that, this is a great wine to have kind of right before dinner or just relaxing on your porch or whatever. It's a very easygoing wine. It's supposed to be fun and easygoing and just something you enjoy with your friends, not necessarily something that you're spending hours and hours contemplating about. But as far as pairings, I mean, I could see this going with it has a lot, even though it's only 7.5 grams of acid, it is still very present. I mean, you could have this with something creamy. You could maybe have this with some sort of, if a dish has some sort of pineapples in it, or I mean, I hate to say this, maybe even pineapple pizza. Don't like come at me if you don't like that pairing, but something with some citrus or lemon zest that's in it. You could have like a lemon pasta with this. That would be really good with some grilled chicken or shrimp. You could substitute that in instead with some parsley and a cream sauce. I'm getting ahead of myself. Jennifer, I am very sorry. Yeah, we did. I will admit we dropped the ball on not explicitly saying you must chill these. I do hope you try Pet-Nats again. It can be really annoying when you don't chill it down enough. So going forward, we will make sure that we are very clear about how to drink these because it is a little different. It's like sparkling wine. You do, I mean, it is sparkling wine, but like a method wine. You want to chill it down, or it will bubble over.
Wes, we chilled ours starting yesterday and opened it a couple of hours ago, and it didn't blow up, but it bubbled over even. And as I poured the first 2 glasses and set it down, it kept bubbling and bubbling.
Yeah. So with this one, it's very odd. We haven't had this. Had this problem really before with the other Pet-Nats. Usually you just pour them, and I mean the ones we had in the past, we have had some carbonation issues, but both of the ones from 2023 have this weird, not problem, but this weird, they just continue to carbonate. They just keep going even after you've poured a couple of glasses. So I do recommend that you either somehow put the cap back on, or have a sparkling stopper. The sparkling stopper will solve all your problems.
And just another little note, besides putting the stopper back on in between glasses, is don't hit the bottom on the table as you set it down, because if you bump the bottle, it'll actually make the carbonation go too.
Yes, you do want to be a little careful with them.
I don't think I bumped, but I know I poured 2 glasses and set it down, and it just kept bubbling and bubbling.
Yeah,
we had emptied the bottle enough with the 2 glasses, it wasn't bubbling over anymore, but you could see a lot of fermentation going on.
Yes, it is a very happy wine. I kind of tell people that it self stirs. It's very, actually, to me, maybe not everybody finds this fascinating, but if you just watch the bottle, it just kind of stirs itself up, which at least the Pet-Nats we've made in the past have not done that. And yes, thank you, Amanda, for that commentary. You do want to be a little gentle with these, you do kind of want to treat them like sparkling wine in the sense that you don't want to shake them. You don't want to be really barbaric with them. And as we go forward, as I go forward with making Pet-Nats in the future, they will be a little more tame. This is a really great step, in my opinion, forward, going forward. These have been, as far as the ones in the past, these are pretty manageable. So I do thank you guys for kind of opening your minds and opening your wine club shipments to some Pet-Nats, because they probably, you will see them in the future. Scott, thank you. I'm so glad you like this. I love this wine. And on the 23rd of March, we are, for those of you who are in the Finger Lakes, we are having a Pet-Nat release party. I think there's some slides coming up on it. Technically, this will be released. This was obviously released to the club, but we also have our second Pet-Nat coming up, which is a blend of Diamond and Zweigelt, which is another very weird blend. It's a rosé. So if you're interested in Pet-Nats, they will be available on the 23rd of March, which is next Saturday. So keep an eye out for that. But if anybody has any more questions about the Pet-Nat, speak up now, or if you think about it later, of course, there'll be plenty of time to ask questions later on. But if nobody has any questions on it, I'm going to move on to.
Realized when I first saw it, I thought it was, I didn't realize it was so carbonated that it would be a sparkling.
Sure. Yeah, that is that is the problem with Pet-Nats is getting down the carbonation. You don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little. And every year, unfortunately, they do kind of change. So I don't want to get too technical. I'll get technical about it for just a second, not so I don't bore all of you. But you can't always rely on the same bricks every year, because bricks is based off of gravity, or I'm sorry, density. So if there's less alcohol in the wine, the bricks is going to read different than if there's more alcohol in the wine. So half of 0.5 in a wine that has 9.5% alcohol in it will be different on a wine that has, say, 10.5% alcohol. That bricks reading might be less. It might be zero, if that makes any sense. So every year you kind of have to, for me, it's learning to find the right bricks for the wine based off of the alcohol. So anyway, yes, if we do get Pet-Nats from us in the future, or Pet-Nats going forward, in all honesty, if you're not used to drinking Pet-Nats, ours is very tame, in my opinion. Many will explode upon opening, depending on who you get it from. We do not disgorge. And for those of you unfamiliar with disgorgement, it is the process. It is part of the traditional method sparkling process. All that yeast in there will be, the bottle is basically tipped upside down, and all the yeast floats to the cap, the neck of the bottle. And then upon opening, releasing the cap, all that yeast shoots out. The wine is then topped up, or the bottle is then topped up with more wine, and a cork is put in it. We do not do that with Pet-Nats. It's kind of a personal philosophy that if you're drinking a Pet-Nat, it should have all of the yeast, everything in it. It's because that's kind of the point. If I was going to disgorge it, I would just make traditional method sparkling, if that makes sense. So yes, if you get Pet-Nats in the future from anybody, just make sure you chill them down. From us, the goal is always, for me, is always to be, so long as they're chilled, you should just have a glass, maybe two ready, and that's all you'll need. It's not going to explode and hit your ceiling. I don't want it to be a problem. I want people to enjoy them. I want them to be easy and fun, and that's the point. So yes, I do apologize for those of you who did have some issues. We are working on making sure people know what Pet-Nats are going forward, and I do appreciate you guys being kind of the test subjects for this Pet-Nat. So if that's it for Pet-Nat talk, I am going to move on to our next wine, which is the wonderful, really, truly great, one of my favorite Cab Francs, the 2022 Cab Franc. So I'll give a quick recap of 2022, because this is, I'm pretty sure the first red we've released from 2022. So 2022 was a really spectacular year for red wines and whites, but reds in particular. It was a drought year. We had a pretty dry summer. It actually bordered, I think we were technically in a drought, which is both a good thing. It's a good thing for me, because the berries are much smaller, which means there's more skin to pulp ratio, and the skins are where all the color and all the tannin are. So that means for red wines, they're big tannic wines that we don't usually see in the finger. We've been seeing them more and more. 2022 is very similar to 2020, but I actually prefer 2022 more. I feel like there's a little more acid, a little more length in the heads. So it was a dry year, it was a drought year, and so yields were down, but quality was through the roof. I would love to see a 2022 every single year. I know my vineyard manager, Chris, would not like to see that every year. I know George would not like to see that every year because we were down 60% in crop solely because it was so dry and the berries were so small and concentrated that we just didn't get the juice ratios that we normally get. And the crop levels that we normally get because the vines were just really pushing the fruit that they had and were not focused on making more fruit. They were really just focused on the fruit that they were already growing. And the canopy was really struggling due to lack of rain. The vines need some water from time to time. If they don't get it, then they don't get the energy to put effort into more fruit and bigger clusters. So it was a wonderful year. The whites are great too. I'm sure a few of you have had the dry Riesling from 22. It's very nice in my opinion. So it was a great year all around, but the reds are genuinely some of my favorites. The Syrah is coming. It's kind of technically out. If you're local, you might be able to get a bottle, but the Syrah will be coming out soon from 22. It was in a Vine Pair article not that long ago, and we also submitted to Wine Enthusiast, and they liked it quite a bit. So keep an eye out for the Syrah. And then later in the year, you'll of course get the Pinot, which is also a really great, quite a big wine comparatively to the rest of the Pinots. But back onto the Cab Franc. I'm assuming most of you know about Cab Franc, but I'll give a quick rundown on it. It's a Bordeaux variety. It's a very common Bordeaux variety, along with Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and some other varieties in Bordeaux. But Cabernet Franc is one of the grandparents, I believe, the parent of Cab Sauv and a few other things. It's a very common in the fingers, very well in the Finger Lakes. Even in wetter, tougher years like 2018 and 2021, it's very expressive of its site and its vintage. It's one of my favorite red grapes, and it is my favorite red grape out of the Finger Lakes for sure. We have currently just under 4 acres producing. We just planted 4 or 5 acres last year of more Cab Franc. So Cab Franc is coming. We're going to be making a lot of it. It's going to be going into rosé. It's going to be going into, obviously, barrel-aged red wine. You can't go wrong with it. And some of our oldest vines are from 1998. And it is also known for its pyrazines, and pyrazines are the chemical compound for not just bell pepper, like greenness, but also things like chili peppers or jalapeno. It's kind of the whole spectrum. Atwater's Cab Franc tends to lean towards the chili pepper greenness, chili pepper pyrazine. So you might pick some of that up in the wine. I personally like them quite a bit, but not everybody's into them. But I feel like they're very, very minute. It's not overwhelming. So that's that about Cab Franc. But so back to just how our Cab Franc was made. In the past, we have done big open top bins. There's a of it. No, there's not. Excuse me for the slides. Oh boy. So it's open top. So it used to be open top, but now we have these wonderful red fermenter tanks. So all of the destemmed fruit goes into this tank. So mostly whole berries. They're crushed up a little bit. go into a tank, a big stainless steel tank, and then we pump them over. So pump overs are basically, we suck the juice from the bottom of the tank and we spray it over the top of the tank. So as the wine ferments, the CO2 gas pushes all the solids to the top of the tank. And you want to keep that wet for many reasons. The major reason is you don't want things growing on the top of the wine. If it's dry and it doesn't stay wet, things will start not living, but you'll get volatile acidity, which smells like nail polish. So you want to keep pumping it over or punching it down if they're in bins. But of course, pumping over and punching down also help release tannin and color and flavor and extraction. You can think of it like steeping tea. The longer you leave your tea bag in your cup, the more potent, the more powerful it'll get, to an extent, of course. So we usually do 3 pump overs to start at the beginning of fermentation, just to make sure there's no volatile acidity. Everything is happy. The yeasts are starting to ferment, especially because we do spontaneous yeast with the reds, and actually most of the cellar going forward will be what we call a pied de cuve, which just means foot of the tank in French. It's basically like a sourdough starter, but for wine. We'll go out in the vineyard, we'll pick some earlier ripening varieties like Pinot Gris and Gewürztraminer. We'll stomp them up in a small variable capacity tank that's like maybe 60 gallons. And we'll let that start fermenting spontaneously on its own. And then we'll use that tank, we use that pied de cuve to then inoculate all of our other tanks. I'm a big proponent of that. I really like to use kind of what yeast is ideally what yeast is on the farm. You don't know exactly what yeast you're getting. But in theory, hopefully it's the yeast that's already on those grapes. And then that yeast is fermenting the wine. There's nothing wrong with laboratory yeast. They were once wild yeasts that we just found and really liked, and people started reproducing them. So there's nothing wrong with them. And we do use them on occasion for certain stuff. Anyway, back to the fermentation stuff. So it's pumped over about 3 times a day until about halfway through the fermentation. Then we'll maybe bring it down to 2, and then eventually we'll bring it down to about 1 day, or one pump over a day, depending on how extracted the wine is. You don't want to over extract, but you also don't want to under extract. In this case, it was about 12 days in stainless steel. I would say on the lower, at least for me, now that I'm in the cellar, we've moved to probably about a 15, 16 day average. But it's very vintage dependent. 22 was a very big year. So again, you don't want to lose that nice fruity character. You want to balance between fruit and tannin. So, and as you can see, it's kind of an alcoholic wine. It's 13.2%. It was ripe. It was 22, almost 23 bricks. That just kind of goes to show you that 2022 was a big year, big as far as wine wise, body and tannin. And then of course it's aged in pretty neutral French oak, and there's a few Hungarian barrels in there for about 9 months. Pretty standard for Atwater. And then malolactic, we've started putting that on there. Of course, it's a red wine, it goes through malolactic. Or I shouldn't say of course. Most red wines go through malolactic. Yeah, that is the Cab Franc. Does anybody have any kind of thoughts or questions on the Cab Franc? I love this Cab Franc. I think it's my favorite. The 2020 was really good, but man, this 22 is pretty spectacular. No? Nobody on the Cab Franc?
No, we love it. Are you kidding?
I would hope so. All right, well, if there's no questions about that, I think that's kind of it for the Cab Franc. I mean, we're going forward. You will see a lot of Cab Franc from us. As you see in the rosé, we've been using Cab Franc quite a bit. And this is also a wine, you don't feel like you need to drink this now. this is, if you have multiple bottles, this is kind of like the 2020s and even the 20, like any vintage, but this vintage in particular, this will last you easily 5 to 7 years. If not, you could probably leave it till 10 and it will still be a really, really wonderful wine. The 22s are big lines. I think they're bigger than the 2020s, in my opinion. For in a good way. They have a lot going on. They have a lot of mid palate. There's just a lot of texture there that I don't feel like I got in the 2020s. So look out for those. They're very good. I'm very happy with them. I think everybody is. And it was a spectacular year, so it's hard to complain. On the topic of Cab Franc, let's go back to the Rosé, our first wine of 2023. If you've been at Atwater for a while, you will recognize that this blend, Cab Franc Blaufränkisch, is a repeat in a way of the 2021 Rosé. I don't love Cab Franc Rosé. I will not lie. It can be so fruity that it almost comes off as sweet. And so I don't like to, and neither does George. And so when I decided that Cab Franc was going to be our base, the base for one of our rosés this year, I also said, we got to find some Blaufränkisch to blend in. They make a wonderful pairing. Blaufränkisch brings this very kind of earthy watermelon aromas and flavors to the wine that kind of really complement Cab Franc's super fruity, strawberry, kind of lime zesty personality. And they make a really wonderful pair. Both as a red wine, which if you've been in Atwater for a while, you'll remember many, many years ago, I believe we made a Cab Franc Blaufränkisch in the past. As a red wine. It was very small. I think it was either 2017 or 2019. Anyway, they play very well together. They're very good siblings. So we did a bit of a trial. We had some Blaufränkisch Rosé, separate fermentations, and then we had Cab Franc fermenting in another tank. And as you might realize, looking at this this tech sheet, that the Cab Franc is not ours. So in 2023, we bought a lot of fruit. Thank you to you guys for constantly demanding more wine from us. Due to the fact that you guys want so much wine, we cannot keep up with production from our vineyards. So we have reached out to some friends and other local vineyards to buy some fruit. We are, and going forward, we will always state where that fruit came from. If it doesn't say a state on it, then it's not ours. And we're not shy about telling people we buy fruit. The fruit we get is great, especially from Sawmill Creek down the road. We've been working with them for years. Yes, Scott, it is a terrible problem. Not having enough fruit. It really is kind of a nuisance. So we bought this fruit from Sawmill Creek, and then Fulkerson as well is a very, very small percentage. Maybe 10% of this Cab Franc was from Fulkerson. So we did buy that. The Blaufränkisch is from Atwater, both blocks combined. And so again, it's a nice wine. It's also really easy to drink, which that's how the 2021 was. And that's kind of how I want rosé to be. You can see that the alcohol, this is a common theme, if you haven't noticed already, is a little lower than normal. I mean, it's 11.6% alcohol, but it's not like it's 12.5 or 13. I'm really not big on adding sugar. So I really like to kind of just use the sugar that the grapes have at harvest. So it as me and my assistant Sam call it, this wine is a a bit of a porch pounder. It's very easy to drink. It's super fruity, super approachable. You've got all of those fresh strawberry, cream, watermelon. There's a touch of earthiness to the wine. It's a very pleasant wine. I'm very happy with it, and I think going forward, this will most likely be a staple, an Atwater staple, in some sort of Cab Franc based with some Blau. In 2021, we did a 70-30, 70% Cab Franc, 30% Blaufränkisch blend. This year it was 85-15. So it depends on the vintage. But going forward, expect to see this again. I'm very happy with it. And as far as the production of it goes, all of this was direct press, so it was treated like a white wine. It went straight through a destemmer and straight into the press, and it was pressed out right there. It didn't see any really extended skin contact or anything like that. And you'll also see going forward, most of it was the Pied de Cuve, the spontaneous. There was some lab yeast GRE for the Blau that I just had left over from last year. So I thought I'd use it up. It's stainless steel fermented about 60 degrees to really retain some of that freshness. And it sat there for about 2 months, pretty typical. This was actually a very early bottling for us. We bottled in January, I think it was January 25th, or it was kind of late into January, which is pretty early for us. We won't be bottling, really isn't starting until basically when I'm back in New York, which will be Monday. We'll be bottling the next rosé, which will be a blend of Barbera, which is you'll have to wait to talk about that. That's a whole nother conversation. And also Blaufränkisch. So that's kind of that for I guess for the rosé. Again, spontaneous stainless steel, aged in 2 months, no malolactic. We have, if you've been looking, if you're a frequent tech note reader, if you're really interested in these production tech notes, we have started adding things like the yeast we've used and malolactic. January 30th. I don't know why I was guessing about the bottling date. It was right there. Yes, Scott. So Barbera, we'll talk about Barbera. We can talk about it. So we were buying so many grapes that we were struggling to find grapes for rosé. And we're very committed to not using, we really want to use Atwater's red fruit for red wine when we can use it. We had a lot of Blaufränkisch. I shouldn't say a lot of Blaufränkisch. We had more Blaufränkisch than normal this year, so we did put a small percentage of Blaufränkisch to rosé, but we couldn't get enough Cab Franc to have just one rosé. And somebody, for some reason, grows Barbera. For those of you not familiar with Barbera is an Italian variety. And is not very suited to the cold weather of the Finger Lakes. However, some people grow one vineyard grows it, and they did sell us some. It is a wine that gets very ripe, but also has a lot of acid. So we did some little. I worked my magic, worked some magic on it. And basically just blended some Blaufränkisch into it, and then there's a little bit of residual sugar. But that rosé will be coming out not for a couple of months. It is being Thursday, so it's not even in bottle yet. But yes, Scott, we have Barbera in the Finger Lakes. Why? I have no idea, but somebody had the bright idea of planting a lot of Barbera and has to sell it every year because they can't make a good wine out of it. It is good. I mean, again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but the Barbera is interesting. It's good for rosé. I'll leave it at that. So do we have any questions on the rosé or the Cab Franc while I'm here? While we're still here? Or if any other wines you got in your club shipment, please feel free to pipe up. Oh, there's a cute little picture of me, George, and Matt. Matt on the left there, most of you might not know him. He is our other co-owner. I won't call him silent partner, but he is the other owner of Atwater with George, and they just he popped in for a tasting one day. And great. Yeah, Dick and Barb, please come out in September. It will be the start of harvest. You'll be seeing us on the crush pad. We look forward to seeing you. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm not going anywhere, so please feel free to think of them.
Are you gonna make a Reedsworth again?
Oh boy. I won't lie to you. Probably not. I have no problem with it, but the Gewürztraminer has gone at least this year, unless we have a huge crop next year. This year's
I vote for that too.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say something, Paul. I knew you were going to say it. I would be open to maybe doing a small batch of it. If enough people really want it, I will. But the Gewürztraminer going forward is mostly going to be skin ferment. At least it was this year. It was like full on skin ferment, so you won't see that for a while. So we'll see. The problem we're running into is we have a lot of white wines, and I'm trying not to have too many white wines. So it's kind of finding this balance between just not having too many wines. Amanda clearly is starting the petition for reverts. I will see.
Amanda.
If the people want reverts,
Love that wine.
I will see what I can do. Bruce, thank you. Gabrielle, thank you as well. Yes, so reverts might happen. Lauren, bring your rosé to the rosé. Oh, you bet, Lauren. Yes, the Cab Franc rosé will be at the rosé soiree. The Barbera rosé will be at the soiree, and of course the new Pet-Nat that's coming out next Saturday. Not this Saturday, the 23rd, will also be at the rosé soiree. Those of you who are not local, you don't know what the rosé soiree is, you should make some plans to come up to the Finger Lakes for that. It is a massive rosé event. It is just rosé. There's probably 30 producers there, and we're all serving up our rosés from the current vintage. Oh, Scott, orange wines. Yes. So some orange wines, we'll be bottling some of the 2021 orange wines in April, at the end of April. I will give you a quick rundown of what those are. We're going to have a Pinot Gris, a just straight up varietal Pinot Gris from 21. And then we're also going to have a blend of, let me see if I can remember the percentages. 57% Gewürztraminer, 29% Riesling, and 14% Chardonnay is going to be a blend. I think that adds up to 100. So that'll be coming out probably not until maybe even next year. We do have a 2020. I'm sorry, we do have the 2020 Pinot Gris, Scott, coming out. The orange wine for that. That will be out in maybe a couple of weeks. It's also going to be at the Pet-Nat party as well. Yes, so that'll be coming out, and we might be bottling. I might be changing up the orange wine aging schedule a little bit. So you might not. The good thing is you might not have to wait 3 years to get, or 30 months to get your orange wine. We might be bottling things a little sooner. Scott, it will be available online if you do want it. Or I will. Please feel free to email George or Amanda or myself, and we will make sure that we can get you a bottle or two of that. It's a big wine. I'll leave it at that. It is a big wine. If you know anything about 2020, it was ripe year, and it's been sitting in barrel for almost 3 years now. It's been bottled. It was bottled last year, but it's got some alcohol on it. I'll put it like that. It's a big wine. I like it, but it's definitely, if bourbon could be a wine, the 2020 Pinot Gris would be it. I'll leave it at that. Definitely a sipping wine. You could pair dinner with it, but it's a big wine. I'll leave it at that.
So Wes, do you guys plan on doing, I know it's still early and I know it's not going to be anytime soon, but do you guys plan on doing any like single vintage with the Zweigelt or any of the newer grapes that you guys have?
Yes.
Or are they just gonna
So
blend it?
Let me see here. So the Zweigelt, I don't know if the Zweigelt is ever going to be I don't think the Zweigelt is ever going to be a red wine, unfortunately. It doesn't ripen it ripens, I mean, it ripens, but it falls apart so fast that it's such a problem for us. So it usually goes to rosé. It's probably going to go to Pet-Nat. The Pet-Nat of it is not out, but it's good. So I think it's probably going to go to Pet-Nat because it starts falling apart about 18 and a half bricks, which is great for Pet-Nat, great for sparkling. But the Lagrein, on the other hand, I am so looking forward to making red wine out of. We were supposed to make it this year, but unfortunately it got completely ruined by the frost or the freeze. It was like the one of two blocks that just got destroyed. For whatever reason, it just didn't like it. And of course we do have some Lagrein. We have more fresh Lagrein, baby Lagrein growing, that will hopefully be producing in the next 2 years. So yes, is your short answer. I am so excited to make Lagrein. It does well in years that it doesn't get destroyed by frost. It does really well as far as ripening, disease pressure. I'm very excited for it. I pushed really hard to get us the new planting of it. We've got like at least an acre of new planting. So we'll have about 1.5 acres. So hopefully we'll be getting, I don't know, maybe 5 tons off of that completely, which is a decent amount. So it should be available maybe in 2024. I hope so. I'll be talking about it if we have it, because I'll be very excited for it.
We can be patient.
I hope so.
Just curious.
I hope so. But other than Lagrein, I guess just a recap on, I'll give you a quick recap of the 2023 vintage and just kind of some new stuff that we're doing. Obviously, you've got the Pet-Nats. Those were new for sure. The vintage overall was pretty good. If you've been reading the newsletter, I've been talking about the vintage a little bit. Acids were in the middle. Bricks were low, so lower alcohol for sure this year. Reds are good on the elegant side, not 2021, but definitely not 2022. I would say maybe somewhere in between. So acid is not through the roof. The acid is very, very approachable, but tannin is typical. It's kind of lighter tannins. The red wines do, for whatever reason, have some nice mid palate to them. So they're fuller wines, but lower alcohol, if that makes sense. Not low, not like 10%, but like 11.5, depending on the variety, maybe 12. And as far as whites go, the Rieslings are great. Some of them are still fermenting, actually. Very little. They have a little bit to ferment still. But whites are good. Sparkling was really great. We doubled, I think, maybe 2.5 times our traditional method sparkling this year. So you'll have to wait quite a few years to get it, but we're going to have quite a bit of sparkling coming up. We did do a sparkling rosé out of Pinot Noir. So you do have that to look forward to in 4 years when it's disgorged and released. But otherwise, everything has been pretty typical. We're gonna have a lot of Riesling for you guys. A lot of Riesling, like a lot, at least 2,000 cases across multiple bottlings. Hopefully we'll have East West wine. It's still too soon to tell where that's gonna go. We'll have our estate dry Riesling, and then because we bought so much fruit, I wanted to keep estate Atwater fruit separate from purchased fruit. So we're gonna have a non-estate dry Riesling as well. So look forward to that. The Chardonnay will be probably similar to last year as far as stylistically, it'll have a little more acid. And we do have some, I'll say interesting, interesting wines coming up because we bought so much fruit. We have some interesting hybrids. We'll have a Corona Noir, which is a red hybrid coming up. We're bottling that in April. It's a very juicy, low alcohol red wine, tank fermented. It's like 9.5% alcohol. So if you're into that sort of like barbecue wine, like king right there. It's very refreshing. It's very fun. Kind of a low effort wine in the sense of you just drinking it and you're having a good time with your friends or family. You're cooking something up. That kind of type of wine. So you got that to look forward to if that's your thing. And then just a lot of wine from Atwater. Riesling, Chardonnay, no Pinot Gris and no Gewürz. I'm sorry. It all went to skin ferment this year. We just didn't have a lot. We had like 3 tons of Pinot Gris. And that was about it. So we just put it to skin ferment. Somebody asked a question, if I can find the question, the chat box. The barbecue wine was Corona Noir, which is a hybrid red wine. I won't lie, I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know the crosses. It's not a wine I've worked with before. But it's very juicy.
Do you know what the cross of Corona Noir is?
No, I don't know what the cross is. This is my first time working with it. I could quickly look it up, actually, I guess. Well, let me do that really quick. But so you have that to look forward to. It's a very fun wine. We kind of got it and just had to work with it. Oh, it is a Cornell grape. And even Bruce Reich developed it. If you don't know who Bruce Reich is, he's basically like the current, or he just retired. I don't know if they've replaced him yet. Bruce Reich has been the head of grape growing or new hybrid growing at Cornell for like 30 years or something. So this isn't going to mean anything to you because it means nothing to me, but the cross is between 2 hybrids. And they're both like random numbers. So I'm not even going to, they're like random cross numbers. So I'm not even going to bother saying it to you. I don't even know them. So there's no major parents to Corona Noir that you might recognize. And it will be available in, I imagine, the summer. It will definitely be in September. So it'll be late this summer. It'll be available. We're going to be bottling it in the next 3 weeks. So yeah. I think that's kind of it for kind of stuff to look forward to. Again, the Syrah 22 is going to be coming out, I think, in maybe the next month or 2. I think it's technically on our website if you want to get it. We have not publicly announced it, but if you do want the 22 Syrah, we had to put it on our website because a review was done on it, and they requested that it be available when the review was available. And so we gave in to Wine Enthusiast and put it on our website. So it is available. We have not announced it, but if you would like it, I believe it is available to purchase. If not, just email Amanda or, George. So yeah. And then Pinot Noir will be coming out. We'll have a second rosé out this summer, another Pet-Nat. And I think that's kind of it. Yes, it is available on the website now. So yeah, does anybody have any final remarks? Yes, no, maybe so.
They were all very good this time.
Thank you, Paul.
You're
Thank you.
always good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So say hi to George for us. if you
We
want.
will. Yes, I will definitely say hi to George. He has really taken over this. He's like this cocktail making machine. He just sits behind the bar and he has all of these cocktails. He's basically a bartender now.
Yeah.
So if you want to see him,
Instagram.
you have to come to music night on Thursdays.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
we're coming up sometime this summer. We just don't know when yet.
Well, if you're on if it's on a Thursday, you'll see George no matter what. He basically lives in the tasting room these days. So he will be there, but I will say hello for you.
Thank you much.
All right, everybody. You guys have a good night. I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys again for coming. Thank you for the support. I'm glad you guys like our wine. And if you have any questions for me or George or anybody, please don't be shy about emailing or calling. You can find our information on the website. We will be there to answer whatever questions you guys have. So other than that,
Thank you.
all right. See you guys later.
Night,
Have a good
everyone.
night. Bye-bye.
Night.